Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an interesting post which is titled, The Quiet Lie Behind Male Loneliness. And a shout out to Brian for sending in this post. And guys, this post comes from the platform Substack. And on that platform, the account is called Men Are Good. And this particular post is authored by a guy named Tom Golden. And I encourage you to check it out. I'll post a link. Anyhow, this post is all about, like the title said, the lie behind male loneliness, and how, if you guys are honest with yourselves or aware of this, a lot of very lonely guys out there. And this article really hits home about how, thanks to the feminist movement, I got to speak in code here, or the bowel movement, that's a little more appropriate, they were unfortunately successful in dismantling a lot of male-only clubs and things like that, where guys could be with other guys, be themselves, do guy things and stuff like that. And is any wonder you have an epidemic of male loneliness? I mean, one of the most famous ones was a few years ago when they dismantled the Boy Scouts and merged the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts, because the girls were whining they couldn't do the stuff the guys could do. And it was ridiculous. And this goes on. And yet, in places like gyms, you'll have a female-only section, or you may have female-only gyms, and yet you don't see male-only sections in the gym, or male-only gyms and stuff like that. It's absurd, and I can go on and on about these things. And so this guy really did a good job pointing this out, the absurdity in it all, and the problems there. And I really want to cover this here, because this is actually a subject I don't believe I ever covered, about the places that just simply guys can go and stuff like that, and what has happened, and how we need to work hard to get that back. And it's really important that guys have guy time. It does wonders for us. So it starts off, says here, before men were lonely, there were places where men showed up without any agenda, where conversation happened sideways, not face to face, where no one asked men to perform vulnerability, explain themselves, or justify their presence. Those places didn't disappear because men rejected connection. They disappeared because our culture decided male-only spaces were no longer acceptable. And once they were gone, men were told that their resulting loneliness was a personal failure. Yeah, exactly. It's our fault, again, because it's always our fault, that we're not adapting and not dealing with the new normal and all that. Shocker. In other words, they wanted us to bond like women bond. Guess what? Men are different in how they bond with each other, typically, and women are different how they bond with each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. There has been a noticeable shift in recent months. A growing number of articles now acknowledge male loneliness and even gesture towards men's emotional needs. On the surface, this looks like progress, and in one narrow sense, it is. For decades, male loneliness was either ignored or mocked. Well, newsflash, it is still ignored or mocked, at least by and large. For guys that are aware of the problem, it's not ignored or mocked. Certainly not here. But many of the pieces commit the same quiet betrayal. After briefly acknowledging that men are lonely, many articles abandon subtly altogether and place responsibility squarely on men themselves, saying that men don't open up enough, men don't try hard enough, men don't build friendships properly, men resist emotional growth. That sounds like a bunch of girl stuff, okay? You want to say men don't try hard enough? Men are trying harder than ever nowadays, it seems. And don't open up enough? Well, guess what? Men don't do that the way women do that. You get a bunch of women together. The way women resolve problems, in case you guys haven't noticed this, is by talking about it, opening up. That's when they get together and they'll all talk. And women, your wives, your girlfriends, try to open you up. They want you to talk, you know? And don't get me wrong, it's good to get things off your chest, but you never make your girlfriend or wife your therapist, or it's going to backfire very badly. But the way men handle things and women handle things are different. But they expect us to be just like them, and it doesn't work that way. What is missing is the most obvious fact of all. Our culture systematically dismantled the spaces where men and boys once formed friendships. Male friendships have never primarily formed through structured emotional disclosure. They form through shoulder-to-shoulder shared activity, regular presence, and low-pressure companionship. Men bonded by working alongside one another, not by facing one another across a table and processing. For generations, this happened naturally in male-only spaces, such as service clubs, fraternal organizations, trade guilds and apprenticeships, male sports leagues, scout troops, men's religious groups, and former gathering places like barbershops and workshops. Sounds about right. The good old days. And guess what? There was nothing wrong with that. And here's the deal, guys. And as long as there are places where men can go and they're not being interrupted and interfered by a bunch of blue-haired assholes that just want to stir up shit, and that's what they are, I got no problem with women-only spaces. I do have a problem when there's female-only spaces and they can't have guy-only spaces. It's absurd. Well, these environments weren't about exclusion. They were containers, places where boys learn how to be men from men, and where adult men maintain connection without self-conscious or surveillance. Now consider what has happened. Barbershops are co-ed and transactional. Service clubs are now largely co-ed, and the informal freedoms that supported male bonding in male-only environments have largely disappeared. Community sports are co-ed or heavily regulated. Even the Boy Scouts are co-ed. That drove me crazy. I can't remember what year that was when I remember first hearing about that. That was one of the many things that really eventually led me to YouTube and starting this channel. Just crap like that was going on. It was ridiculous. If girls wanted to do guy stuff like camping, if the Girl Scouts, instead of selling cookies and shit like that, or brownies or cookies, which are pretty good, by the way, wanted to do more things like the guys would do, young boys would do, like camping and hiking and all that, okay, let them do it. But let's keep things separate. At the same time, male spaces were dismantled, female-only spaces proliferated. And here's some examples. Women-only gyms are accepted. Women-only scholarships are celebrated. Women-only commissions exist at every level of government. Women-only networking events, parking, subway cars, retreats, and support groups are commonplace. Women-only is understood as necessary, protective, and empowering. Men-only, by contrast, is treated as exclusive, airy at best, and dangerous at worst. The result is an unspoken rule that everyone knows, but a few admit, that women may gather without men, men may not gather without women. Right there. That hit it all. And oh yeah, about the gyms, either there's female-only gyms, or in actual bigger box gyms, they'll actually have a room, and I worked at a place that was like this, that only women can be in. They'll have a big section of free weights and machines and cardio equipment. And I remember working at a gym there, and you have to walk around and make sure the place is clean and organized. And there was this joke that whenever a male employee walked in the female-only gym, you could feel the daggers on you. Just like, what the hell is he doing in here? It's ridiculous. Meanwhile, and people might say, some people might say, the floor of the gym, that's where the guys go. No, there are girls out there too. Shit, my gym here, I go to two different gyms here. The gym that's part of where I live is part of the membership. And then another gym, and I switch back and forth depending on my schedule. The big gym, the big box gym I go to, which is great. There's plenty of girls and women out there lifting. And it ain't good for them. They're working out, but they're there wearing shorts up with their butts are hanging out and all that. They seem pretty comfortable. But there should be a room for guys. Anyway, it says here, this is not equality, it's a double standard, and it has consequences. Well, then comes the blame. Once the social infrastructure that supported male friendship is gone, men are told to adapt, to reinvent themselves emotionally, to do the work. Good heavens. Reinvent yourself emotionally? You mean, might as well, I'm not going to say it, because I can't say it, but you know what I mean. Basically start behaving like a girl. When they fail, when loneliness deepens, the problem is framed as internal, a defect of their character, a failure of emotional literacy. This is, by feminism's own definition, blaming the victim. Holding responsible the very people who have been placed at a disadvantage by cultural change. Women's suffering is explained structurally, men's suffering is explained morally. Layered onto this is something rarely acknowledged, the hostile cultural judgment directed at men and boys themselves. When boys grow up hearing that masculinity is toxic, that they are potential oppressors and their instincts are suspect, it quietly erodes any sense that their sex is something to take pride in or even trust. Under those conditions, isolation is not just social, it is existential. Yeah, How many young guys are growing up nowadays hearing that crap? I feel so bad for the young generation out there. There's nothing wrong with traditional masculinity. Traditional masculinity is a good thing. There's a big difference between traditional masculinity and what can be labeled as toxic masculinity. Nobody wants to have a bunch of young guys out there, or men, who are a bunch of bullies and assholes and stuff like that. And when I say assholes, I mean there's the assholes that is kind of a compliment, but I'm talking about real assholes here, bullies. We don't want to have those guys in society. Those guys deserve an ass whooping. But traditional masculinity, where men or young boys are raised to be leaders, to be strong physically and internally, to take charge, be the type of guy that their family can count on, that their future wives and children can look up to for guidance and all that, to be their rock. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you are raising boys to believe that that is actually a negative thing and can't be like that, I weep for the future, but I do my part here, and many of you guys do your part to help make young guys know that no, that labeling of being toxic is a bunch of crap, and traditional masculinity is a good thing. I'm in the kind of mood, guys, to talk and rant a little bit today, but I think since you guys pretty much agree with what I'm saying, aren't going to mind that much. This is a very good post. I really like it. You guys should definitely check out this guy's Substack account. Again, I'll post a link in the description and the top of the comment section. He goes on, says here, what often goes unnamed is that this pattern does more than misdiagnose the problem. It functions as a form of relational aggression. Men's suffering is acknowledged, but only in a way that subtly relocates responsibility back onto the man himself. No one, well, nearly no one, says outright that his loneliness is his fault, yet the implication is unmistakable. If he were more emotionally literate, more open, less defensive, less toxic, he would not be alone. Compassion is offered alongside correction. Empathy is made conditional on change. Good Lord. Again, they want the guys to be more like girls. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. Yes, women do talk about their problems. They talk. And that's good. And I don't want any guy going around with things bottled up inside, being a ticking time bomb. That's not good. But there's a difference between getting it out to your bros or to your father, your uncle, your godfather, than turning into some crying woman. You don't want to do that. And no matter how much your girl wants you to cry, if your girl says she wants you to cry, I want you to leave. Don't ever buy into that. It's okay to cry, sweetheart. No, it's not. Man cries will make a woman barf and be so turned off by that. And pouring out your insecurities and feelings and all that. No. She's worried about you. Say, I just had a bad day. I got things in my mind. But I'm going to be all right. Then you talk to your bros about it over a beer or something. From a clinical perspective, this is precisely how relational aggression operates, through implication rather than accusation, through moral processing, a positioning rather than open attack. Shame is induced without being named. Validation is withheld without explanation. Social standing and legitimacy are quietly eroded. The result is not connection, but deeper isolation, all while those perpetuating the narrative retain a posture of concern and moral superiority. Well, they ain't kidding about the moral superiority of those that cause this problem. For many men, isolation is not just about having fewer friends. It is about losing a sense of place, purpose, and belonging. When the environments that once affirm male identity disappear, men don't just feel lonely, they feel unnecessary. Yes, we all got to have a purpose, guys. We all got to have a reason to get up every day, whether it's a business you're building, a great goal you're trying to achieve and you're working hard at towards a long-term goal, and every day you get a little closer to that goal through your hard work, or, all sorts of things like that. And by the way, a quick interruption here, time out. I got to tell you guys, for 6 years I was in martial arts, and overwhelmingly it was men in there. Big surprise. And it was a great time. A lot of the guys, it was their escape from life, in terms of they weren't escaping life, but guy time, where we can beat the crap out of each other and we're all buddies afterwards. It was fantastic, And these guys are men that had wives and children and all that, and they could be men. It was great. I wish everybody would have had what I had during those 6 years. Men do not primarily heal through talk. They heal through shared purpose. physical presence, action, solitude, humor, loyalty, time spent together without scrutiny. Remove the environments that make this possible and replace them with verbal, emotionally performative models, then criticize men for not thriving, and you create the impossible bind. Add to this a culture that repeatedly tells men their nature is dangerous or defective, and the bind tightens further. It's difficult to see connection when one's very maleness is framed as something that must be apologized for, corrected, or kept under supervision. What a steaming pile of crap. But that's what goes on. And I know so many of you guys are well aware of this. But at least you guys are watching this video. You know this, what's been going on as a crock. And you can do your part with your buddies, or perhaps your sons or nephews or grandchildren, to help stop this nonsense from getting any worse. This is not men refusing connection. It is men being asked to connect in ways that violate how they naturally bond, after their native environments have been dismantled and their worth has been publicly questioned. Anticipating the pushback, and here are some of the things that are said. Like, 1, men can still form friendships if they still want to. Yes, just as plants can still grow in poor soil, the question is not whether it theoretically is possible, but whether the conditions support it. Or, male-only spaces exclude women. So do female-only spaces, and no one pretends otherwise. The question is why exclusion is framed as protected when women do it and pathological when men do it. Another one, some male spaces were unhealthy. Well, some families are unhealthy. We don't abolish families. We improve them. Eliminating all male spaces because some were flawed is collective punishment disguised as progress. Exactly. And there's a particular amendment, not going to say which one, but you all know what I'm talking about, that is around that issue. Well, we got to abolish it because of you assholes. You get the point. Another one, men should just adapt. Adaptation is not a moral obligation when the environment itself has been intentionally stripped of what once made adaptation unnecessary. The real question, if we are serious about addressing male loneliness, we have to stop blaming men for failing to thrive in conditions that were engineered to prevent male bonding. In other words, to stop trying to do it in a way that women do it. Male loneliness is not a personal failure, it is a cultural outcome. Until we are willing to say that out loud and rebuild spaces where men and boys can gather without apology, these articles will continue to sound compassionate while quietly reinforcing the very problem they claim to address. So there you go. That was very well written. I'll post the link there. What the hell is the guy's name? It is Substack, Men Are Good. That's the name of the account. And the guy's name is Tom Golden. Tom, good freaking article, man. And apparently there's many more there. I was told I didn't have time to look at them all, but check it out. So anyhow, guys, there you go. And for those of you who are watching this, I don't know how big this video will be, how well it will do, but it really hit home. And it really is important that there are places where guys can go. The problem is, yeah, the blue-haired assholes with the nose septums are going to be after us still. But you know what? Fuck them. Let them try. But I do urge all you guys that want a more social life and maybe you're a little lonely, and that's all right. That's all right. Places like martial arts or boxing schools and stuff like that, those are great places to meet dudes. Yes, you're going to have women there, but overwhelmingly they're guys, at least from my own personal experience there. And they'll be good for you. Really help you get out and talk to other guys. And man, there's nothing like bonding by beating the crap out of each other, and all guys should learn self-defense and fight. So if you ever thought about doing it, I would recommend checking out local schools that offer self-defense or boxing, kickboxing, stuff like that. That's a good one. And then of course just your guide time and stuff like that. And also I want to point out, guys, for you fathers out there that you have sons, or your grandpas have grandsons, or uncles out there that have godsons, nephews, again, doing your part to make them aware that the whole shaming society has been going on now to shame the natural masculine ways, traditional masculine. Make sure they know that's a bunch of crap. Really, for you old school guys out there, these young guys, this young generation need our help. And I do my part here on YouTube, and hopefully you guys can do yours. And hopefully we can, in time, reverse the madness out there that some pissed off blue-haired harpies named Jessica ushered in and done to dismantle what was once good. Anyhow, guys, very good article there. Alright guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, if you find a good article you want me to cover, or you got a personal story you want me to read on this channel, send it my way, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I'll definitely cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.